Let's get started today, and we'll start as we've been starting since we begin this series with a moment of centering down and calling ourselves in, calling our hearts and our minds in. So I'm going to read a different meditation this morning. This meditation is called The Growing Edge, and it's from Thurman's Meditations of the Heart. And so I want to invite you to close your eyes and to listen to these words and to see what the Spirit might be saying to you this morning through these words, and to use these words as a frame for understanding everything else. It's called The Growing Edge. As we say every week now, if you're watching online and you're driving or you're handling heavy machinery, don't you close your eyes. Amen. You keep your eyes open. We don't want you on the sick and shut-in list trying to do what the pastor said to do, okay? All right, here we go. The growing edge. Look well to the growing edge. All around us, worlds are dying and new worlds are being born. All around us, life is dying and life is being born. The fruit ripens on the tree. The roots are silently at work in the darkness of the earth against the time when there shall be new leaves, fresh blossoms, green fruit. Such is the growing edge. It is the extra breath from the exhausted lung. The one more thing to try when all else has failed, the upward reach of life when weariness closes in upon all endeavor. This is the basis of hope in moments of despair, the incentive to carry on when times are out of joint and men and women have lost their reason, the source of confidence when worlds crash and dreams whiten into ash. Such is the growing edge incarnate. Look well to the growing edge. I'll read it a second time, and then we'll continue on. Look well to the growing edge. All around us, worlds are dying and new worlds are being born. All around us, life is dying and life is being born. The fruit ripens on the tree. The roots are silently at work in the darkness of the earth against the time when there shall be new leaves, fresh blossoms, green fruit. Such is the growing edge. It is the extra breath from the exhausted lung, the one more thing to try when all else has failed, the upward reach of life when weariness closes in upon all endeavor. This is the basis of hope in moments of despair, the incentive to carry on when times are out of joint and men and women have lost their reason, the source of confidence when worlds crash and dreams whiten into ash. Such is the growing edge incarnate. Look well to the growing edge. This morning, we will continue our conversation and move on to our next discipline of the Spirit, which is growing, our growth in wisdom and stature. Our text this morning probably struck you as very interesting. It's from Luke chapter number 2, verse 40. The text says, the child grew and became strong, filled with wisdom, and the favor of God was upon him. So here is the thing about growth. Everyone has to mature. No one comes into the world fully developed. Not even Jesus. The words of Luke chapter 2, listen again. The child grew. Who's the child? Jesus. And became strong, filled with wisdom, and the favor of God was upon him. Think about that for a moment. Many times we don't think about Jesus and his growth process, his process of maturation. We literally jump from Christmas to Easter and miss 3 decades of development and growth. When you think about Luke's gospel, when we first meet Jesus in chapter 2, he's a baby being dedicated at the temple. For some of us, we go from being a baby, again, to being a grown man hanging on Calvary. Luke 2 reminds us, though, that no, Jesus doesn't go from a baby to being a grown man. At one point, he's 12. That's how old Jesus is in the text. He's 12. Between verse 7 and 42, Jesus goes from being a newborn to being a preteen. And the Lucan writer summarizes all of that time in verse 40. The child grew and became strong, filled with wisdom, and the favor of God was upon him. There are a few points today that I want to make about this text in conversation with the book that we've been studying, Disciplines of the Spirit, because I think there's a lot to be gleaned about growth, about maturity, about wisdom as a spiritual discipline. The first thing is, and I want you to be sure you get this, because sometimes we act like we forget it, growing and maturing are processes that take time. I think I need to say that again. Growing and maturing are processes that take time. We set ourselves up for disappointment and frustration when we expect ourselves and others to grow and to mature overnight. Those of us, not me, but those of us who are parents, we know this. The road to growth and maturity happens in stages. Children are babies, then toddlers, then preschoolers, then grade schoolers. Then they move into adolescence, become teenagers, and ultimately the young adults. And even when you get to be young adults, guess what? Growth doesn't stop happening. Thank God at 42, I'm not the same person I was at 20. Yeah, I knew I would get at least 4 amens right there. Look, can we have a slight Baptist preacher moment? Is there anybody here who's glad that today they are not the same person they were 20 years ago? Because if we was honest about it, we were a mess. Hot blazing. You didn't even know your life was a dumpster fire. Life is a process of growth. And every step of the way, when it comes to young people and children, they are learning, they're growing, and they're maturing, right? Again, those of us who have kids, you all remember, baby's born, and you just got to hold the baby, right? Your baby can't do nothing. Baby can't go nowhere. Something break out and we got to run. The baby is stuck if somebody don't pick baby up. Baby ain't going to make it, right? But then one day, out of the blue, the baby rolls over. Now we got to start watching because check out the growth and maturity, because now the baby has grown enough to roll over, but has not matured enough mentally to understand the danger of rolling over and falling on the floor. You're going to catch it in a minute. But then the baby goes from rolling over, right? And now one day you look around and here comes the baby walking towards you. Stumbling and falling, right? But walking. Then babies learn to Go from learning how to cry. They come in the world knowing how to cry, don't they? Just screaming. But then one day, you're looking at the baby and the baby's laughing. What did the baby learn by laughing? Who told you what was funny? Then all of a sudden, the baby goes from learning how to say da-da to what? Mama. And some of us hate that stage because you're going to hear it for the next 10 years. Somebody said 40. And then they move from da-da and mama to learning their ABCs and learning how to count to being able to have a full conversation. And that's when things get interesting. You ever want to have a good time, have a conversation with a 3-year-old. You will learn some things about yourself you didn't even know having a conversation with a 3-year-old. Why? Because they've grown enough to talk, but they haven't matured enough to learn how to filter their thoughts. Hello. Look, some of us still ain't grown enough to learn how to filter our thoughts. If we don't say it, our face say it the whole time. We be sitting there talking to people, face telling everything. But watch this. But then the maturation process continues, right? They go from talking to reading and writing. But here is the thing. None of that happens overnight. It all takes time. And the Lucan writer wants us to know that that is normal. What is abnormal is being born and coming into the world fully developed and fully matured. And some of us have done people in our lives and ourselves disservices by expecting us to walk into relationships, walk into life, walk into situations fully matured and developed. Now this is where I'm going to get some married folk to help me preach, because y'all know y'all were fully grown when y'all got married and your relationship still had to cure and mature. Yeah. Somebody say it's still curing and maturing. I'm still learning every day. But no, you don't get married on day one and expect to live like you've been married 50 years. Some things you literally only can learn with time. Point is that growth is a process. It's normal. So normal that even Jesus shared that same experience. Jesus was not born into the world fully matured. Growth and maturity are processes that take time. Growth, as we move on to number 2, equals change. To grow is to change. If you are exactly the same today as you were 10 years ago, you probably are dead. Because things that don't grow are dead. Hello. Facebook is cold and petty. I didn't realize how cold and petty AI could be until I started looking at my Facebook page. Years ago, I took these pictures and posted them on Facebook. And now that it's been 5, 6, 10, 15 years, I get to look back over time and see how I've changed. And it's petty. I saw a picture this morning from June of 2020. My beard was black. Jet black. 4 years later. Well, never mind. Y'all see it for yourselves. But guess what? That's a sign of maturation. It's a sign of growth. It's a reminder that I've lived and survived 4 years during a time when a whole lot of folk died. If I had not been able to change, then that might be a sign that I ain't still here. And so this week, as we move into the discipline of growth and maturity, Thurman wants to remind us that growth, as in the life of Jesus, means change. Change in structure and quality and of character. Growing by definition means differences, and one of the marks of spiritual and emotional maturity is the ability to deal with and to accept change. There are several definitions of growth that I found in the book that I want to share with you all because I think they're very helpful. First, there's physical growth, right? And I want you to listen to this. Listen to how Thurman describes physical growth and think about Luke 2. It means development of the life of an organism. It means manifest change in structure. Remember, growth means change in structure and quality. Here's another definition. Thurman says, for our purposes here, growth means the orderly process of development through which a form of life goes from seed to fruit, from egg to matured animal, from cell to embryo to adult human being. Now, with our text in mind, these definitions become particularly instructive. The stages of growth and development that a baby experiences are great examples of the ways in which we should be maturing spiritually and emotionally. In the book, Thurman describes how a baby goes from being the focal point of the family to being a part of the family. And in that description helps us to understand the spiritual discipline of growth. Those of us who know Luke 2 know that one of the reasons that Luke 2 happens is because Jesus ain't what he's supposed to be. He a preteen, right? This is when he's in the temple arguing. Now, those of you who have teenagers, you all know, you go to the grocery store, one day you turn around, you look up, they're gone. Now, when it was in my day, you ain't had no cell phone, we didn't even have pagers. So if you was gone, Granny might have left you. That's what happens in Jesus' story. Jesus gets gone. They don't know. They halfway down the road before they figure, well, where's Jesus? And then got to turn back around and get, Lord, I cannot. Hey, Granny, I know you watching. Love you, baby. I can't imagine my grandmama being on her way home and use up her good gas, driving down the road and having to turn back around and come get me because I wasn't where I was supposed to be. Y'all might not have a pastor. I would not have been able to grow or to mature because I would be dead in my grave. Thank God Mary wasn't like that. Amen. They went back and got Jesus. But that's the thing, right? Again, what Jesus is evidencing here, if you actually think of it from a developmental process, is, I hate to say this, somebody gonna judge it, but really is a lack of maturity. Because he's a kid. Thurman talks about that. Babies go from being the center of attention, being the focal point of the family, to being a part of the family. Now, those of you all who have little ones know when the baby first get there, the sleeping schedule is based on how the child sleeps. I see I got some amens. I don't know about it, but I got 3 best friends, 2 of them, between the 2 of them, they got 8 children. So I've seen this process as an uncle from afar, praise God. And it's funny to me because you call them, how you doing? I ain't getting no sleep. Well, brother, what's wrong with you? Well, the baby was up all night. Well, that means you got to be up. Sure do. Baby get hungry at 4 a.m. Everybody got to get up at 4 a.m. Because the baby becomes the focal point of the family until the baby matures enough to become a part of the family. And that description helps us to understand the discipline of growth. Here again, we must remember that a spiritual discipline is not a specific activity, but an experience that helps to shape the life, mature the way in which we experience the world, and expand our concept of how we relate to the world and understand our position in it. That's what a spiritual discipline is. And growth does that for us. If we are growing, then our growth is an experience that helps to shape our life. It should mature us in the way that we experience the world and expand our concept of how we relate to the world and our understanding of our position in the world. One of the great signs that you could always look for a person who is spiritually or emotionally immature is self-centeredness. You probably think this song is about you. It's bigger than you. And growth and time and maturity helps us to understand that most things in life are bigger than us. Now, if I had time, I would talk about the fact that a lot of times, even when we experience people and they come at us a little funky, 9 times out of 10, it really ain't even about you. That person ain't really even thinking about you. What you're getting is some smoke that they had from somebody else. And the truth of the matter is, if you learn it right, if you're mature enough, you'll come to discover that experience with that person had less to do with you and more to do with them and what they got going on in their own inner life. I'll get to that later, though. I got to run because brothers need to go get their steak. So, characteristics of growth. Characteristics of spiritual and emotional growth. I'm going to give you a few of them, and then we're going to be done because I've already planned not to get through all this today. So first of all, delayed gratification. First characteristic, delayed gratification. Listen to how Thurman describes this baby that we've been talking about and hold the text in your mind. Thurman says, the baby begins to learn how to wait, how to postpone fulfillment. He thus finds his way in the community within the family circle. The foundation of community is our ability to postpone the fulfillment of our own individual needs, wants, and desires in deference to the needs of the broader community. See, baby don't understand that mom and daddy need to sleep so they can get up and go to work and provide for the rest of the family. All baby knows is baby wants milk. Baby has gone to the bath, needs to go to the bathroom. Baby just don't like the darkness. Baby just want to holler. But as you grow older, right, now you understand, no, I need to let mama and daddy get some sleep because the 4 for 4 that used to be 4 is now 4 for 8. And since I'm not working, I need to let mama and daddy sleep so they can go to work, so they can have the $8. Y'all okay? Everybody all right? Again, delayed gratification. Postponement of the fulfillment of our individual needs, wants, and desires in deference to the need of the broader community. This is important because if we're honest about it and we look around, don't say amen, don't look at nobody, just look straight ahead. We know that we live in a world full of many grown people who for many reasons have escaped this particular discipline of the spirit. Don't look at nobody, don't make no eye contact. Don't make no eye contact. Let's move on. Number 2. Which is attached to number 1. Number 1 is delayed gratification. Number 2, the ability to accept that the world does not revolve around you. The spiritually and emotionally immature are unable to accept and understand their relation to the world around them and use all of their resources in an effort to manipulate the world for their own ends. Again, think of the baby crying and why the baby might be crying. I remember, I never forget. I ain't gonna give too many details. I'm just gonna call it the baby because somebody might be watching and it was their kid. So anyway, I never forget. I was sitting there watching this kid. I'm looking at the kid, and my first thought was, "Wow, I'm glad I ain't got no kids." But then I'm sitting there watching the kid, and I noticed the kid wanted to be held, right? So I picked up the kid. I'm bouncing the kid, I don't mind bouncing the kid. Hey, little kid, how you doing? You going home? You going home to your people so you can bounce all you want to bounce. You're not going with me. Hey, little kid. Then I put the kid down. Kid started hollering. So I picked the kid up. Kid stopped hollering. So I bounced the little kid some more. Hey, little kid. So nice to have you, little kid. So glad you're going home, little kid. Put the kid back down. Kid start hollering again. At this particular part, this little joker think he's slick, huh? I see what this is. You want to be picked up, and in your mind, your hollering and screaming is annoying enough that I will give you what you want in order for me not to have to listen to you holler. What the kid didn't know is I had earbuds. Look at God, ain't he all right? Won't he do it? Ain't he able? Have you tried him? But I remember when I was a kid, though, because I never forget, I remember hearing the old folk talk about babies, and when baby get to crying and somebody run there and pick them up, there'll be a little old lady say, leave that baby alone. Because if you start teaching them that now, they'll keep doing it for the rest of their lives. And the truth of the matter is, this is going to sound so awful, we got a whole bunch of grown babies around us who kept getting picked up, and now here you are at 60 years old, expecting the world to continue to pick you up because you never learned how to lay there and figure it out. And what some of us need to do is put in our earbuds. Somebody get Deacon Todd. The word that laid him out. Somebody get it. Somebody get it. Somebody get it. Because that teaches you that the world does not revolve around you. Think about the baby and the baby that's crying when they're blocked in their efforts to manipulate the world and those around them, they throw temper tantrums. And the truth of the matter is that we got a whole lot of grown people in the world who throw adult versions of temper tantrums when they can't get their way. Now, don't go judging nobody, because many of us are guilty of throwing temper tantrums with God when we don't get our way. Well, I prayed and I asked God for so-and-so and I didn't get it. What if God said no? There is a difference between genuineness and integrity in the experience of prayer and trying to manipulate God into doing what you want God to do. And the truth of the matter is, it's going to sound so cold, but for some of us when we praying, God do us like I did the baby. God puts God's earbuds in and moves along. Because you got a lesson you need to learn. And if I pick you up, I'm going to teach you the wrong lesson. You got to learn how to get comfortable in your crib. Moving on. Number 3, the appreciation for the growth process. See, you real grown and you real mature when you can appreciate the process that got you to being grown. To learn, Thurman says, to know when waiting is essential to the process and to the life of the individual is to be disciplined in one's spirit. To learn how to wait is to discover one of the precious ingredients in the spiritual unfolding of life the foundation for the human attribute of patience. What does that mean? That means we got to learn how to be patient. Growth is a process that does not happen overnight. And if you don't learn how to be patient, you're going to spend your whole life frustrated. You know, I was reading something on social media, and someone was talking about the great benefit it is to have a garden in your life, or to have flowers that you tend to. It's just good for your mental health. I also think it's good for your physical and spiritual health if you can, just to put your hands in some dirt every now and again, ground yourself, feel the earthiness of the dirt. But also plants will teach you some stuff. First thing plants gonna teach you is you can't rush me. You put the seed in the ground today, you don't walk out there tomorrow looking for cucumbers and tomatoes. I mean, you can if you want to, you're gonna be disappointed. Here's the other thing, you can't rush me and make me produce faster than I'm supposed to. You give me too much water if you want to, you're gonna drown me, I ain't gonna give you nothing. You put me in too much sun if you want to, I'm gonna burn up and I ain't gonna give you nothing. What's the point? You gotta wait. And if you wait, I'll give you the fruit that you're looking for. The real farmer knows how to appreciate the process, and catch this, anticipate the process. Real farmers ain't out looking for apples in orange season. And some of us, the problem that we have is we so in a hurry that we mad because we can't get apples in orange season. When you learn to appreciate the process, you say, well, I sure would like an apple, but I got these oranges over here. Looks like we have an orange juice this morning. And you give God thanks for the gift of the orange juice while you wait on the apple juice. Going through the process, waiting does two things for us. Number one, it gives us time to contemplate the reality and the responsibility of fruition. What does that mean? We say we want some stuff, but sometimes we need to wait to get it so we can think about the consequences of getting it. Hello? There's so many people, oh, I want to buy a house. I want to buy a house. You want to buy a house to the first time something breaks, and you get ready to call the maintenance man, and you discover this ain't the apartment complex no more. Ain't no maintenance man. Either you going to be the maintenance man, or you going to pay this other maintenance man, and he $100 an hour plus $75 just for coming out. Ooh, I sure would be nice to have a big yard till you got to cut it in 95-degree weather. Everybody okay? Waiting for things gives us time to contemplate the reality and the responsibility that comes with the thing that we say we want. Number two, it gives us an opportunity for revising, refreshing, and reshaping our desire. Because you might really think about it and say, no, you know what? I want my own space, but I might need a condo. Because I ain't up to cutting no grass. Y'all okay? Y'all hear what I'm talking about? I want a house, but you know what? I better get a ranch and not get a two-story because my feet bad and my hip bad and my back bad, and going up and down them stairs at 70 don't sound like God's will for my life. Hello, y'all all right? Y'all okay? Okay. Okay, I'm checking. I'm telling you, the choir's having church with the pastor, okay? What? You got it. Waiting gives you time to really think through and say, well, no, I want it, but maybe I don't want it like that. While the experiencing, listen to what Thurman says here. While the experience of waiting is ours, we discover the meaning of patience and understand the need to assess our lives in terms of our own desires, purposes, dreams, and goals. See, the reason why you need to wait on some stuff is because you might discover that what you thought you wanted, you didn't want. Somebody else wanted it for you and convinced you that you wanted it. Everybody want a Mercedes, so you got to go get that first oil change. You know what? Somebody go get me a Honda. Let me. Can I get a Ford? I need a Ford. I like the 1699 oil change at the Quick Lube. I don't like going out to go to the. No. I mean, it's nice when you go in there. They give you water and everything. Give you a car, coffee, donuts, and then you get that bill. All I got was an oil change. Yes, $500, please. Thank you. And you need to come back in approximately 1,000 miles. Sometimes what you want ain't what you really want. What you want is to get from point A to point B. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. What you can afford is to get from point A to point B. To have some time to revise and think through. Listen, I'm gonna add 5 minutes to the sermon. Some of us thought we wanted to get married. Again, everybody look straight ahead. Look forward. Don't look to the left. Don't look to the right. Don't touch nobody. Don't let nobody touch you. It's serious. You'll be surprised when you read the studies how many people thought marriage was something that it wasn't. And they ran off and went to the courthouse or whatever and got married, came back, told everybody they eloped. Now the honey done left the moon. And you sitting there with big old rock. Because what you wanted was a wedding. You didn't want a marriage. You should have just went and had a party. I'm trying to help you. You should have rented someplace out, got a DJ, got some good handy hors d'oeuvres, and had a party with your friends with a big old cake. You could have had a little figurine of yourself put on the cake. Because you didn't want to be married. You wanted a wedding. And there's a difference between the two. And sometimes when we take the time to wait and think and revise, we discover that, hey, this ain't for me. That leads to the last point, and then we're done. That is self-differentiation. That's a good word. You ought to write that down. Self-differentiation. What does that mean? It means self-differentiation is the experience of becoming aware of the self as a self. Alternative explanation. Let me help you. Listen to how Thurman explains this. I love it. A person has experienced self-differentiation when they have made the crucial physical distinction between the self and the not self. The meaning of physical distance is experience. The person stands unsupported and alone, an autonomous object in the midst of a world of objects, and there is room for movement in between them. The peculiar space of the self is established, never quite to be lost again. What does that mean? That means you know how to put enough distance between what's yours and what ain't. You're different. You know what? That's your anxiety, not mine. I'm not taking that on me. That ain't none of my business. Oh, I'm really sorry that you feel that way. How can I help you? Because that's not my problem. Right. It's the difference between to be self-differentiated means to know what's your stuff and what's not your stuff. And sometimes we have trouble in relationships because we have not grown enough to know the difference between our stuff and our baggage and somebody else's stuff and their baggage. And we read into other people's actions our own problems and issues. Everybody okay? Y'all got quiet. We was having church for about 2 minutes. And on the flip side, we take on other people's issues and baggage as our own. Yeah. Yes. Some of us, the reason that some people in your life are your friends is because you literally are the bag lady. And they come and dump all their stuff on you, and you pick it up and carry it out the door. And they say, "Oh, I feel so much better, so much lighter." That's why they're your friend. You got to learn how to self-differentiate. I can listen to you and hear you and help you process and still go on about my day and my way, because that's not my problem. I can care about you. I can love you. I can be concerned about you. I can want to help you as best I can within the limits of my resources. Amen. And here's how you know you're self-differentiated. If it's something beyond what I can do, I don't feel bad about it because I did what I could. Some of us, that feeling of regret you have and disappointment and frustration, that ain't yours. That's just because you don't know how to self-differentiate. Now you mad because I sure wish I could help so-and-so. Meanwhile, so-and-so ain't even trying to help themselves. Translation, I can't be more bothered and offended by stuff than you are when it comes to your stuff. I got my own stuff to be bothered and offended by. And when I'm sufficiently self-differentiated, I can do that. This is the most rewarding and the most painful part of the experience of growth. It's usually awkward, agonizing, and anxious, and an anxious period. It's very awkward to look at somebody and say, "Oh, wow, that's really awful. I ain't none of my business, though. But I thought you cared about me." I do. And I really wish I could help you, but I can't. I'll walk with you, though. As a therapist friend of mine said, I'll walk alongside anybody, but I can't carry your stuff. Some people don't want to hear that. So it becomes awkward. It becomes agonizing. You lose friends. Or people you thought was friends, they weren't your friend, no how. Here's the thing, though. Just like the baby in the text, when it comes to this awkwardness, this agony, and this anxiety, we inflict most of it on ourselves. But it's necessary. Because if we didn't do it to ourselves, we'd never learn the lesson. Okay, I'm going to show you. I'm going to read something to you. This was so good. I actually brought the whole book. This is the book. See this? And look, I got highlights and notes in it and everything. All right, listen, let me read to you something that's going to help you, and then we're done for today. Listen to what Thurman says here. Growth means the experience of becoming aware of the self as a self. Awareness of the self is rooted initially in the experience of the body. I visited one evening with a friend of mine who was babysitting with his infant son asleep in an adjoining room. Listen, presently we heard what seemed to be the beginning of a cry, then a short whimper, and finally sounds of genuine anguish and distress. We investigated. The baby had thrown off all the covers. He was not fully awake, and his big toe was in his mouth, and he was chewing on it. Even though he had no teeth in evidence, his gums were very firm. The pain he was inflicting on himself made him cry, but he did not know it was his own toe that he was chewing. In fact, he had not become toe aware. This was one of the first steps to experiencing his own body. To round out this experience is to take one of the primary steps in growth. Does that make sense? Sometimes it's necessary so you can learn to stop chewing on your own doggone toe. And some of the crying and the hollering we got, we literally hollering and then chew on our toe. It hurt. And we holler some more. And then we get tired of hollering. We chew on our toe some more and then stop and holler again. And it's not until you get to the point that you discover, wait a minute, this is my toe. It's hurting because I am chewing on it. Now that sounds real simple, but there are some things in our lives that are equivalent to us chewing on our own toe and hollering that because it hurt. Going back to the same relationship with the same person that you. Tamika wasn't worth nothing 3 years ago. She ain't worth nothing now. Roscoe just as lazy today as Roscoe was then. They haven't changed. So why are you over there mad that Tamika and Roscoe ain't changed? You're doing it to yourself. And until you experience that and learn that lesson, but then when you learn it, you don't talk to Roscoe no more. When Roscoe texts you, hey, how you doing? I'm not. Tamika texts you, I miss you. I don't miss you. Sure don't. Matter of fact, who is this? This number is not in my phone. Yeah, but it takes time of learning yourself. And so it's a necessary but painful process. Self-differentiation then, and we're done, requires us to re-engage the world on our own terms. And this too is a process, but it's also one of the greatest signs of maturity and wisdom. Listen, friends, please listen closely. Growth, maturity, and wisdom are gifts of grace given to those who have received them by God. Everybody don't want them though. Some people get bigger, but they never grow up. Some people get older, but they never mature. The world is full of old fools. Don't look at nobody, keep looking straight. The world is full of lost boys and girls in the bodies of adults, living in imaginary never land. Don't be that person. Grow in stature and wisdom.